Welcome to Poland Daily History with me, Nicholas Richardson. And in this series of episodes, we're continuing our look at great themes which have swept across British and Polish history. Points of difference, points of similarity. And I'm delighted to have with me in the studio my colleague Adam Starzyński, our expert in all things historical and Polish. Adam, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
And it was a pleasure. And one of the great sweeps, of course, across European civilization was the advent of Christianity. Slightly different histories, both in the United Kingdom and in Poland.
Yes, the case of religion, of course, is one of those factors that has great influence over society, over history, over these broad sweeps of history. There is this school of history called long history that was started by Fernand de Braudel, this French historian. And he argued that instead of looking at short snippets of history, small events, or even there is also this other school of history, the so-called great men of history, that focuses on the influence that specific individuals have had. But according to Braudel, we should instead focus on these themes of history and these long events that took place for centuries and shaped society. And without a doubt, religion, broadly speaking, and Christianity, especially when it comes to countries in Europe, is one of those themes. In Poland, naturally, we had the baptism of the nation in 966.
And 966 actually is quite late in a European context. Anyone thinks, for example, of not the United Kingdom; it didn't exist then. One thinks of England, and this was came very early, essentially at the time of obviously at the time of the Romans, when Christianity was spreading throughout the Roman Empire. So at least half a millennium before Christianity reached Poland.
Yes, you could say that there is this general divide in Europe that goes more or less along the border of the Roman Empire, the northern border of it, so to say. If we look at the Scandinavian countries, almost all of them were Christianized around the same time. Sweden and Denmark were first, Norway a little bit later, but all of them around the 1020s, the mid 11th century, so to say. In Poland, it was around a century earlier. But also in Germany, for example, you have the same, the 10th century. Kievan Rus, also the 10th century. Then, of course, we have our neighbors here in Poland that we were closely tied with historically. The Lithuanians, they were the last pagans in Europe, and they were really first Christianized in the 14th century, so they held out the longest, so to say. So if we look at Northern Europe, you could in one way say that the British Isles are the exception, if we now count Northern Europe or Great Britain to Northern Europe, so to say. But of course that is related with the Romans making it across to Great Britain. Julius Caesar really being probably the first one to eye the British Isles, even though there was no lasting settlements created by these first adventures by Julius Caesar. But later on, if I'm not mistaken, we're talking about the fourth century or so, when the Romans really established a strong presence, a permanent presence on the British Isles. But what is interesting is that when the Roman Empire fell, in many parts of Europe, the influence of the Romans, for example, the church, it did gradually disappear or weaken. But on the British Isles, not just in what is today Great Britain or United Kingdom, but also in Ireland, the church remained as a strong factor also in the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th century, and leading up to this 10th, 11th century, when all of Europe more or less became Christianized. So it is interesting from a Polish point of view that Christianity has a little bit of a longer history in the British Isles than it does here. But once it did arrive, it did play an immensely important role.
Adam, as usual, the clock has defeated us, but do pause. We will pick it up next time. There we are. I've had to interrupt Adam because the clock has defeated us. But don't worry, we'll pick up the discussion next time on Poland Daily History, and we hope to see you then. Thank you for watching.